Well, it's been a couple hours. This glue should be dry by now, dry enough. See what we got, see if it's starting to look like a truck. No, starting to look a little bit like a truck. I'm thinking just take some finish sanding and we'll just set it aside for now. It's pretty good progress. The next thing it's calling out is for the fenders, and I think we're going to do some Purple Heart. So I got to round up some. I did get one chunk of Purple Heart here. So this one here. This is going to be for the front fender like that. I'm going to need one for the left side, and you got to figure out that angle because this is going to have to go up on the angle like that, so the matching angle, so it comes out straight across the front. And then we'll put some headlights in there, round the fender over, and make it look not like just a square piece. Give it some character. So I'm going to see if I can round up another piece of Purple Heart from my scrap bin, from my cutoffs and stuff. Got a little bin where I put all the Purple Heart cutoffs. Now the downside with this is we're going to need something pretty thick. Oh, this one's thick enough, but it's not wide enough. I can grab that other fender. We'll see what we gonna get away with. No, that is not gonna work. Need something. It's not quite thick enough here. No. Size is good, it's just not thick enough. This is a thick piece, but I already was cutting a wheel out of it. There's not enough, I think, left for the meat left to make another part out of that. This piece is a little too short. It's plenty thick enough. No, I don't think we're gonna be able to get one out of there either. A lot of scrap in here. Just no big pieces. Well, it's a nice block, but I think also it's too, yeah, way too small. There's a block. Ooh, that one's close, but too short. Nice thins in here. Make good inlay material. I better set this aside just in case. Put that in the inlay collection. Well, we'll have to look in a different location. I can't find anything that's going to be acceptable here. Well, I got some other stash spots over here. Let me look under here. What do we got here? Yeah, this is looking pretty good. Promising. Got some Purple Heart. Uh-oh, got a split. That's probably how I ended up with it, but I think there's a thickness on this. Oh yeah, that's thick enough. Plenty thick enough. Definitely get a small thing. You can see this is a nice slab of Purple Heart. We'll get a fender out of that. Yeah, let me get this laid out, get it drawn up, and we'll see if we can't get a fender out of that. So I got that wheel mounted up in the drill press with a Forstner bit, and I'm going to use that to cut out the wheel well. Got it checked up. I got it level. Got it very secure with 4 clamps in there. Turn that drill off for a second. See, I got the clamps in there on all 4 sides. Piece of wood across the front, 2 more clamps, and there's clearance under the drill I'm just going to come down just barely through that, and I'll do the fender for the truck. I'll do each one that way. Should give you a nice clean hole, a little better than a hole saw. You can see I got the hole drilled in it. I'm going to use this sander here to smooth it out and to make get all the edges real nice. This thing rotates and goes up and down. You got different size belts. This one's the exact diameter of this. So I'll put the flat side down and sand that real nice. I'll do the other one the same way. It's a nice finish. So to round this off, after I took it out of the disc, I brought it over here to the cylinder sander. I brought it over to this disc sander, and I wanted to make that back end round because that was just a squared off. So I'll work it on. You can see the purple there where I've been working that, and I'll bring that to a round fender so it looks more like the book. See, the book there's got a nice round fender. So I'm going to round that off, thin that down to appropriate length. But you can see how it's starting to take shape. It's going to fit on there like that. Well, it's showing flush with the front frame, but hanging down. It's hanging down here below the frame on the back part. But the front part appears to be flush to the front of the truck. So that would sit more like, oh, there we go. Sit more like that with the tools that I'm using. Spindle sander. You don't have that, and if you didn't have a Forstner set of Forstner's bits, you could just use a hole saw and saw it. It's best to saw that hole before you get the slant in it when it's still a square block. Drill the hole first. With my vise, I just leveled it up and drilled it, but it would probably be better to drill it as a block when it's still square rather than when you've made that angled cut on there, because then you got to keep that, in order to get the hole straight, you got to keep it level. Anyhow, also round it over on the belt sander, round it over the edges. When I get this one done, I'll round that edge over real good on the outside. The surface, the straight surface or the slanted surface that goes against the truck, you don't want to round that over because it'll make a rounded over gap where the fender attaches. So that portion, leave that surface flat. But the outside edges, you can round them over real good so it look like a regular fender instead of just a sharp edge there. Well, good morning. Got both the fenders done, as you can see here. But you noticed, before I glue them on there, that the sanding them and getting them to shape, they lost a lot of the purple. And that has to do the sap. You can see where it was hot. The sap came to the surface and the sap is purple. So I'd like to get that purple back because it looks cool. And that was the whole reason we picked Purple Heart, so it could be not only its hardness, but also so it could have contrast against this whiter colored oak. So one of the tricks I use is use one of those little hobby heat guns. I don't want to scorch the wood. I just want to get the sap hot enough to be able to bring it back to the surface and have that purple color. So we'll see how this works. I don't want to glue them on. I don't want to get the oak hot or make it dark, but we would like to get the purple back. So we use this little, we got to get the wood pretty hot, but not hot enough to smoke, but probably too hot to handle. I have put them in a microwave before, and that can also work, but it seems like you have a little better control with the heat gun. So as you can see, it's starting to turn purple again. So I'm sure this will work. It's just gonna take, 10 minutes or so to get it heated up. Anyhow, I won't bore you with the time to get this done, but we'll start it back up and we'll get these glued on. So as you can see, they're quite purple now. Still a little hot, but the colors come back real good. It's going to have a nice contrast. So it's going to glue them on this and let them dry. I'm going to put them slightly, just ever so slightly, sticking forward just a tiny bit, because we'll run this to get it perfectly flat across the front. We'll run it up against that big disc sander, a 6-inch disc, and get that front end exactly flat after the glue dries. Anyhow, the next thing it's calling for is for the smokestacks. So there's 2 of them. You can see they're a 1/4 inch diameter here and 3/8 inch in the middle. So what I've decided to do is, since I have a lathe, is I'm going to just chuck up a 3/8 piece of dowel, oak dowel, and then turn the 2 ends down to 1/4 inch and leave the center part 3/8. And just use the lathe to turn that down. Also, on the 3/8 portion, it's just showing a smooth cylinder here, but I'm going to make it a little more fancy, put some lines in there or something with a bead type tool. So anyhow, stay tuned for that. Get that going here pretty quick. As you can see here, I got her clamped up, got the nice purple color on there, and I got the bumper made up. Put it under the front there to get the spacing right. And I put a 1/2 inch block back here so I can get that clearance on the overhang. If I clamped it flat, those fenders would have been up too high. So I put a 1/2 inch spacer in there, and I think that bumper's about 3/4, and I made it out of a piece of scrap I had of walnut, black walnut. It goes good with the fenders. I'm gonna drill after it dries and I get it sanded back. Then I'll put in the little headlights. But I didn't want to put the headlights in until I run that on that disc sander and flatten that front. So anyhow, it's gonna dry in an hour or 2, and then we'll continue on. Meanwhile, let's take a walk over here. And I got this, I haven't started on it yet, but I got it marked up. That center section is going to stay 3/8. This is a 3/8 inch diameter oak dowel, and I'll turn either end down to 1/4 inch. But to start off, while it's still nice and strong, I'm going to do the 3/8 center portion, make it a little decorative, because it's, as I thin down that down to a 1/4 inch, the 2 ends is not going to be nearly as strong. Anyhow, let me get some tools out and we'll get started on that. So this is the tools, the bead chisel sets that I got. You can see 3mm, 6, 8 millimeter. I think this one's a 10 millimeter. So I think what we're going to use is we're going to use the 8 millimeter. Look, I think that's going to be the most appropriate for this. And we'll come in here and put about, I think we can get 3 beads on there. 1, 2, 3. 3 beads on there to make it look a little more fancy. Anyhow, let me show you when that gets done. So you can see I didn't quite turn it down to a 1/4 inch, but it is a lot smaller. I just finished this end piece, and then one of the exhaust pipe will be done. You see I put a little more decoration. I still got to sand it. Probably sand it with some 600, smooth it out. I probably should have used maple instead of oak dowel. The maple has a tighter grain. As you can see, it's a little rough with the oak. I'll sand it down, but still, it's not going to be as nice as it would have been if it was maple. And next one I'll use maple. This one I already started. I use the oak for now. You can see we're sanding it with 600. I'll pull it out of the jaws here in a minute, flip it around. Looking pretty good though. So it's way better than just the standard cut a 3/8 dowel and glue 2/4 inches into the end of it. And then we'll grind a flat on one side of it and glue it to the side of the cab a little later. So even after sanding, we're still just slightly big. We're supposed to be 250. It's 267. That'll do. Little kid playing with the truck, he's not gonna know the difference. Well, we got the fenders on. They're dried, glued on, and I marked out the holes where the headlights are going to go. And so I just got to block. I'm just going to do them by hand instead of putting them up in the drill press. It's a 1/4 inch hole. I used the awl again to mark it exactly so you can get the tip right in there, so they're going to be aligned better. And it's just a 1/4 inch hole. We're just going to drill it down about 1/4 inch or so. I'm going to put in some little pre-made headlights. We'll put in, there'll be 4 headlights. It looks like I need to go just a little bit deeper. It's always good to test them. I want to set those pretty flush. There we go. All right, I'll go ahead and put the other ones, get those holes drilled now. This has already been ground flush, so it's easier to set it up like this when there's no bed on there or anything. So you can see what it's going to look like. Pretty good. I got both of the exhaust pipes done. So I didn't call for it, but I always do a little extra, make it a little more custom. But I tapered the 2 ends so they'll be facing like that when they get glued on the side. And I made the flats on the sides of them, you can see. So those will glue up, one on each side like that. And then in front of them, it's going to be the stairs. These are going to go on the very back, and there'll be stairs on both sides. I'll make those next. So I've made the first step for the side of the truck. You can see the dimensions here. I made them out of Purple Heart. You can see that matches pretty well. And we want to pause it here and get those dimensions. And so that's going to go right here. When you mount them, here's the exhaust pipes I made earlier. It didn't call for an angle on the top, but I thought it would look cool, so I put an angle on there. And those steps are going to go right next to them. They're going to go something like this. They can go on that flat spot just below the cab. Got to be sure to put them far enough, close enough to that fender to leave room, to mount the exhaust pipe. It can go right on the edge there. Remember, we made a flat on one side, so it'll stick on there and glue down better. Just make sure when you glue the exhaust pipe on there, you're gluing it on there pretty straight and it's not hanging down too far. It should be about equal to the bottom of the steps or so. You don't want to stick them below the steps because a kid's going to be rolling this along the carpet or something, and it might catch that exhaust pipe and break it off. Well, I'm ready to put the bumper on this truck, but I want the edges to be a little more rounded over. I could just hand sand it and round it over, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the router table and use an 1/8 inch round over bit and run these edges here and this bottom edge around the router. But before I use this good piece of walnut, I'm going to test it out. Scrap piece of pine that I got to make sure that that router depth is exactly where I want it to be. So I think it's good. If it's too high, it leaves a line in the side and it does more than just the round it over. So that looks like it's going to work. So I'm going to run that piece of wood through there real quick, and that'll be a more uniform corner rather than hand sanding it. Get my dust mask on. Sucking in any walnut dust. So you can see that gives a real nice uniform smooth edge. Might get a little burn on there. I'll just use some 220 and sand this up. I got 220 on the hand palm sander. Just real lightly dust this bumper up. I'm sure as the kid uses it's going to be get banged up anyway, but for now we'll have it looking nice. We'll give them to the kid. The next thing it's calling for is front bumpers. You see I got both the stairs glued on. I'll wait for that glue to dry. And here's the front bumper. I chose black walnut to make the bumper out of. You can see the dimensions there. I've already got it done. Just waiting for the glue to dry. And that will attach right here to the bottom. And if it were to hang over, it's gonna stick forward. It's gonna clear the wheel wells. But if it didn't, you could use a sanding drum and put a little curve into the edge of that bumper so the wheels could clear. But it looks like this one's going to be set far enough forward that it's going to clear those wheel wells. Anyhow, that's the next thing is going to be the bumper. And then once we get the bumper, we'll glue the headlights in. I haven't glued them in yet. It's not calling for a radiator or anything on here. That's showing the finished thing. Finished picture of the front end. Let me take a look here. Go back. Yeah, they don't show a radiator, but I decided I think I'm going to use a piece of some rosewood. I got some pieces of rosewood, and it looks cool. It's kind of like a radiator. It's got some green in it. So I think what we'll do is we'll make a little radiator. We'll put a curve on it, and once we get the bumper in, we'll measure that, and we'll at the top we'll round it over like a radiator, and then maybe I'll put a little radiator cap in there. Sometimes when I'm making these trucks, if you know, you got to be a little creative on your own, maybe a little artistic, and so you can add some things. You know, it's you don't have to stick exactly by the plans. You got to get some axles. You see that we got to get 1, 2, 3 axles going on here, but we'll get that bumper glued on, and then pretty much once we put the headlights and the bumper in. Oh yeah, then the axles come next. Well, you can see I got it clamped up. Getting that bumper glued on. Really starting to look like a cab of a truck now. I think those Purple Heart fenders are going to really stand out, look real nice. Run some 600 sandpaper on them, get them nice and smooth. The contrast with the white maple plugs I did for the headlights, so they got that bright white headlight, and then we got the Purple Heart on there. The stairs aren't quite as purple, but I might take the little heat gun to them and see if I can't get them a little more purple color. Well, good morning. This morning we're going to be making the
axles and axle housings for the truck. As you can see here, these are the dimensions for it. We're going to need one long one for the front axle and then two shorter ones for the back axles. It shows in here, you can see from this photograph, that they mount it up in a vise and mount the axles on there, glue them all on there, and then drill the holes. Well, one of the problems is if you drill a hole slightly different in each one, as far as the distance from the bottom up, the rear wheels are going to be two different heights, and one of them might not touch the floor quite as much as this axle in front of it. The front doesn't matter, but the back are two axles close to each other, and so the wheels might be slightly off. So what I do to get around that is I'll take a long block like this, and I will drill as deep as I can go, probably 4 inches or so, a hole in there, and then cut off the axles, and the hole will be the same distance from the bottom in each one of them. Anyhow, outside we're going to drill 11/32 drill bit, and you can see, so it's calling for the length of those to be 1 1/8 inch, so that's 2 1/4 inches total, and this is much longer than that, and so we'll be able to get those. We'll just cut off the parts we need. There'll still be a hole in there, and then I can go back later and use that hole as a guide and drill the rest of the way and have this all drilled out so I can use it later, as long as I got mounted up. And the front one, I've already got this one drilled out. I'm using oak 5/16 oak dowel. These are pretty strong. The kid could stand on it, and you're not going to shear this off. And it fits in the axle. That diameter hole, 11/32 is pretty good. It's not too sloppy and not too slides pretty good. So we'll get these axles made up, and then we'll start in on making the wheels.
We're ready to go. I'm using maple, so it's got a nice tight grain, strong wood, doesn't split easily. So that should be a deep enough hole. I got lots of this maple, small maple pieces. My neighbor used to live behind me. He's moved away now, but he lived there for 25 years, and he was a cabinet maker and did a lot of maple cabinets. So the cutoffs and the strips he used to collect for me. Let's see how that axle fits in there. Hopefully it's going to fit in there good. Get this side without the label. Oh yeah, that's in there perfect. So anyway, we'll cut those to length. So I've gotten the axles cut. Here's the two back ones, and here's the positioning of them. So you can see one here's 2 1/8 inches back, and the front one is 1 1/4 back from this cutout on the frame. So I've marked both of those on the bottom where they're supposed to be located, and I marked it on the side. The reason I marked them on both sides is so when you're gluing the axle in place, you can line up the center hole pretty good as you glue them down. So I'll glue those in place and let them dry. On the front axle, what I'm going to do with that one is I'm not going to glue it in place. I'm going to make the wheels, put the axle through it, mount the wheels, and then when the wheels are on it, make sure that they're centered in the correctly and that the wheels don't touch before I glue it on, in case I have to turn the wheel down a little bit or move it slightly forward or back. So it doesn't take much pressure. I just put the little small clamp on there. If you want to make sure you get them square to the frame, you can use a square like this to square them up. Make sure they're straight across there and that both sides are in the center. If you get a little glue squeeze out, I don't really like that, but if you give it a couple minutes to get kind of tacky, I use this pocket scale and just go in the corner. Just make sure I don't have any excess glue on there. It's hard to sand off later when it gets dry, but just to make it a little neater, you could just get sharp corner or something. This might not be the appropriate tool for it. That's what I use. I'm using Gorilla Wood Glue, the ultimate. It's waterproof, so I always use the waterproof. It's not that much more expensive, and it's good in case a kid leaves a truck or the car or whatever toy out in the rain. They'll still hold together.
So now we're getting ready to make the wheels. So you can get store-bought ones like this, and these are about 0.63 thick, and they're 2 inches in diameter. So, but I want something a little nicer than this, so I'm going to make my own wheels. I got a piece of walnut here, black walnut, and it's measuring about 0.94, so it's a bit thicker, which I would like to be thicker. Now I'm going to use this hole saw, 2 1/4 inch hole saw, to drill out the wheels. The reason it's a little bigger is because you got the wall thickness here, and we want to turn them down to size. So I use this template here. It's got a 2 1/4 circle on there. So I put it on there, and then I marked the cross points, and I'll put a little use the awl and put a little dot in the center where those lines cross, and then we'll try to drill that in the center, and then we'll put them up on the lathe. I'll drill the same size hole in here that the axle we're going to use, which is about 311, 310, 0.310, 0.311. That's going to fit in the center of that. So the standard diameter of the shaft that holds these on the lathe is going to be 1/4 inch, which is smaller. So I have some spacers that are 1/4 inch ID, and the OD is about 312, 0.312. So that way I can drill a hole. So when I turn these, that hole will be exactly in the center of the wheel. It's very difficult if you got a 1/4 inch hole, try to open it to 0.5/16 of an inch fractional, to open that up and have it in the exact center. So if you drill the hole up beforehand and then turn on the lathe, it's in the center. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I think we're gonna use thicker wood because I want to put a little hub in the center that sticks out a little bit to make it look more like a truck, like make it look cooler. And then I want to put some tread on there. For the front tires, I think we're just going to use straight tread like a regular truck. Meanwhile, we're waiting for this glue to dry. We might as well get started on these wheels. Well, because the hole saw comes with a 1/4 inch drill bit, you can't put any bigger one in there. There's 2 ways I can do this. Not use this, just cut this out the general shape with a bandsaw and then chuck it up in the lathe. Or I can use the bushing that I'm going to use on the lathe, put it in there as a guide, and then get this started in there as a guide, and then go ahead and drill a hole like that. But I think I want to scuff up my bushing, so I think what I'll do is I'll just get the bandsaw, cut this generally in a circle, and then mount this up in the lathe and then turn it round. That's easy to do. I'm going to turn it anyway. So, but this is an option to use if you bushing, or drill this first, and since it's oversized, you can go ahead and chase it out with a 5/16 drill bit, and then turn the outside, and it will be in the center. Or you could use a sanding disc, cut the original size hole, and then sand it back. If you didn't have a lathe, you could sand it back to that diameter. Make a little jig on your, if you have a disc sander and a table, you can make a pin that's adjustable. It goes to the center, and then just spin this, and you'll get exactly a round. Alrighty then. One more to cut out. And of course, these were marked at 2 1/4 inches, so I got plenty of meat on there, 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch per side, to get it nice and round and get it down to around 2 inches.
There's that one. Put a couple of spacers in there so we have some room to get in. We'll mount the other wheel. That way we can cut them both at the same time. Don't have to switch over. So the first thing we got to do is get these down to the from 2 1/4 to 2 inch. So I got them round, got them mounted up in here. I got the caliper set for 2 inches. So we'll just keep turn them down. We'll keep checking them till we get down to 2 inches. I found that it's easiest to keep an eye on the profile if you look at this top surface as it spins, and you can see if it's even all the way across. Oh, getting close. Okay, they're both exactly 2 inches. So now I want to mark this at about 3/4 of an inch, 0.75. So we'll set this at 0.75. So that's how thick I want the tread to be. Put a little mark there. Put another one there. And then take our mechanical pencil. Set this to this mark and just turn this by hand. Get a line on there. This one here. Get a line on that one. Then we'll grab some other tools. I'll come in with this one and want to cut this back and make this into a hub. So grab this other carbide cutter, it's a little more aggressive. Take that down quicker. So we're going to take that down till we have about the thickness of what we would imagine a tire might be. So again, we just have to use your imagination and try to come up with something that looks kind of cool. There's no dimensions or there's no angle, just however you think you want to make it. So you can see I'm undercutting a little bit to form the tire. And one thing we got to try to do is make them the same. So we can come in here and we can measure those. Try to keep the diameter so they look, you know, they're not going to be side by side. They're going to be either side of the truck. 1.1 inches. This one's about the same. So we got to make that, put some relief on the back to make it look more like a tire. And that, we'll go back to this tool. It's a little more finesse. See what we can do with that. I think that looks better.
Now we got to relief the back side a little bit to make it a little more cosmetically appealing. I think that'll do it. Those look pretty good, but we got to have some kind of tread on there, yeah? I think so. Oh, what can we do with some tread? I'd like it to be kind of uniform. Oh, I do have one of these. So I think we can get some tread on there. Is it wide enough? Yeah, should go all the way across. So there's what the tread, the hub, the back side. Got a little relief there so it doesn't rub on the frame. So get these going. Get those mounted up on an axle, and then I'll cut the length of the axle after I make sure that it's gonna look okay. For the back wheels, the front ones, the axle's on there. It was hard to clamp down because you got this cab with the odd shape. So what I did was I put the wheels on the axle and stuck it through the axle block, and the axle is being held down against the inside of that block and holding it up there till the glue dries. That way the axle block is supported the full length by the axle. One wheel is glued on. The other one is just slid on there. I didn't glue that one on because in case I need to make some last minute adjustment or something. But you can see they fit the wheel wells pretty well, and you can see the axle block up under there. It'll be dry in an hour or so. Then I'll flip it over. We'll take a look at it. The headlights are in, but you can see these wheels are way nicer than the store-bought. Store-bought's easier. A lot quicker probably to do. I found these little maple buttons. I shoved those, pressed them into hubs, and then put some glue on the inside. I thought they looked cool, contrast against the walnut, the white maple. Anyhow, I'm going to get ready to see what it's going to require to get started on those the back wheels. It's a dual axle. I think they're dualies on the back. I'm not sure. Take a look here. Oh yeah, got some dualies. Those are going to be fun. Yeah. So it's starting to take shape. Well, we got to get some gas tanks, it looks like. Turn some of those. And then some air cleaners. A couple of air cleaners on the side. So I still got a few things more. And then we got to get this dump bed going. See what we can come up with that. I see it's got a flap in the back that swings. It's going to be fun. Well, we got this far. Now we need to get ready to make the dualies for the back. It's got dual wheels. So I got this piece of walnut here, and I'm going to make them just like I did the front, except they're going to be thicker. See it? I did the layout. We need 4 of them, 2 for each side, and this is going to be 1 3/4 inches thick. Black walnut, and so I will cut those out and then put them in the lathe. Before I cut them out, I'll drill those center holes 5/16 inch, put them up on the lathe, and
and turn those. I don't think I can fit all 4 at once on there, but I can do 2 at a time and then try to make them match. They're going to be a little different in that I'm going to, on the outsides, the side that faces outward, I'm going to take a 1-inch Forstner bit and come down 3/4 of an inch to give a recessed hub instead of a sticking out hub like the other ones. So there's the Forstner's bit I'm going to use, and I've marked this board on the end with the line at 3/4 inch deep. So when I extend this drill bit down, all the way extended is going to be cutting 3/4 of an inch deep. That way all the hubs on all 4 wheels will be the exact same depth. So I'll be cut down 3/4 of an inch on the 1.5 inch. So about halfway through it. And that should look pretty good. Okay, so we're going to cut out these hubs out of this piece of walnut. I got this preset for the correct depth. And now I'm going to take it over to the radial arm saw and cut these out. Well, now that we got these to a more manageable size, mount them up in here, drill that 5/16 hole in them. If you notice on this one, I didn't use a brad point 5/16. I used a round nose because the Forstner bit had put a round point on there. It wasn't really pointed. It was more of a round. So this tip would fit in that and follow that more accurately than the brad point. Once that tip hits something, it wants to stay, especially on thicker drills. Wants to stay. So if it's off a little bit, it's going to drill the hole off. This round nose, if you don't fasten down the vise real tight, that'll wiggle around until it finds the center, and it'll be closer to the center. It doesn't have to be exact. Remember, I made these 1/4 inch bigger, so we'll turn them down the lathe, and that will become the center. And they're pretty close to being in the center. So I got them rough cut the corners off on the bandsaw, got them mounted up in here. So I'll do 2 at once. I'll do the same method. I'll set the calipers for 2 inches. And then we'll turn them down till this fits on them. Go just a 2/1000 of an inch bigger. That way we can sand them. So I can see got some turning to do to get them down to 2 inches. And you can see inside here where I've got the recess area, I'll round that over and make them look like wheels. So you can see they're going to be dually, so we're going to have to put a line in the center when we get them to the right diameter. And then we'll put separate treads on them in a deep line to signify 2 separate wheels. Anyhow, we'll get to turning on them. Okay, both of these are exactly 2 inches. So we'll switch from this aggressive cutter to finishing. We'll use this one here for the final work. We got to round the edges over. We got to measure the middle so we can put the line in there. Tell you what, we'll do that right now. use this to get a little wider V in there. We'll actually make it look like two separate tires. See what we got there. We just got to round it off more on the outsides and a little bit more with this one. We can get in there and round it off now. We'll do the same thing on these where we leave the back sides of them so they got some, don't rub on the frame. So get the round one for that. Tool I use for this puts like a little curve in the back, so that works pretty well. Smaller tool rest on here and get in there a little tighter. Try to make them look the same. Of course, yeah. This side's more critical because this is going to be seen. This one's going to be against the frame on this side, so I want to make these look pretty nice. They're looking pretty good. So I think we'll put just straight tread on these two since it's a street truck. Let's see if we can use that same tool. Get the bigger tool rest on there. Yeah, we should be able to reach both those tires. It's a little narrower, but we still should be able to do it. Turn that speed down, and we'll go over them real lightly with some 600, just a light to make them real smooth. We'll get any burrs off a little faster. Oh yeah, still pretty good. I think those are going to work. 2 more to go. Halfway there. We'll see how they look on the truck. Well, we got the wheels done, back wheels. As you can see, they all touch. They all turn together, both sides. So I haven't glued these on. These are just a press fit at the moment, but I will glue them on later. No reason to glue them on. We still got to do just the air cleaners and the fuel tanks, and then the chassis, the body will all be done. We just need to make the dump bed. So I think I'll save those for the last video. This video is already plenty long enough. But you get the idea. So I put the hubs. I'm going to put some white buttons, find some that'll fit in there and glue those in also. So I'll do that on the next video too. Anyhow, that's where we're at so far. I think it's coming along pretty good. It's a fun project. So you can tell me what you think. There's a shot of the bottom.